Hey everybody, it's Lachelle, America's Supermom, and I just want to take a few minutes to give a little bit of a background and explanation regarding this post with Jordan Gross. I want to say first that he is an amazing guest. His patience and insight, I have just been blown away. I really enjoyed our conversation and, just his perseverance. We actually had to record this recording about 7 or 8 times, and his attitude was just impeccable throughout the entire thing. And a little explanation on what took so long for an podcast that was recorded on July the 12th. Well, I take all the accountability on that because I had to edit this myself. So, just a little disclaimer there. It is a little longer because, the um, interview got cut off, with different takes, so to speak. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background just to share um, what really went on behind the scenes with this and how it really grew me. Um, the whole thing about being accountable, recognizing, these are just organic conversations that I am having to get to meet people in my network, to uh, have an opportunity to share insight and perspective and just grow overall as a person. I really resonated with a lot of the things that Jordan said, and he just really inspired me to continue to level up, be the best version of myself, and to always be actively learning. To have a conversation to where we really shared a lot of the same ideals and values, and for him to just be 24 was just amazing to me. His insight just blew me away. So this is just a little bit of a opportunity to just kind of share what an amazing person he is. I look forward to what the future holds for him, and I really uh, have connected with him and really would love to continue to support him in any way that I can on his journey. If you do get a chance to hear the podcast and it resonates with you, go out and follow him, purchase his book because I'm telling you, he knows what he's talking about. And just his insight to me is amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recording. Thank you. You.
Lachelle, hi, good morning. How are you?
I am good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, how about myself?
Fine. Awesome.
Perfect. Perfect. How was your
So
week?
glad. It was kind of busy and crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
that's to be expected. In my household, it's always a lot going
Yes,
on.
of course. Yeah, I have done my research on you. You are somebody very special.
Well,
Very,
thank
very,
you.
very special.
Thank you
Yeah, of
so much.
course.
I really appreciate that. So I
Mm-hmm.
am really excited to get into our conversation. I first
Yeah.
like to start these out with just telling everybody, how we met, how this whole conversation came to be, and a little bit
Okay.
about yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
All right. So you go ahead. I'm ready when you are.
Oh, you want me to take that away? How
Yeah.
we met? Oh, yeah. Um, so so you came up on Elaine Jacques' post
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, I think just about a week ago,
Uh
and
huh.
or maybe even less. And I looked at you and I looked that she shared, and I just said, wow, I need to get in touch with this amazing lady because my mom is the most important in my life, and here's this super mom who is doing so much for her children and for the world. So I said, let me get in touch, see if we could have a conversation. And then it spills over nicely into my pursuit right now. So I'm currently doing 90 and
Okay.
have the opportunity to be on a podcast with somebody who I truly appreciated and respected and wanted to have a talk with. And oh, by the way, we get other people to listen to it as well.
Awesome.
I just thought that was like the perfect storm. So that's how we got in contact. And I reached out, and I'm so glad to be chatting
That is
now.
so awesome. And I noticed you were on
Yeah.
Mark Stratesky's podcast. I was on his show. I hadn't got a chance to
Yeah.
listen to yours, but he is a great
Yeah.
interviewer. So,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. He really challenged he really challenges his guests,
mhm,
which I really enjoyed.
mhm.
So yeah, Mark was a great interview, and then we've been chatting now. He wants to do a TEDx talk, so
Oh,
I did one in the past, and he wants to do one too. So I've been helping him, figure out a third door pathway into getting a TED talk because it's in pretty hot demand. So
that's awesome. So, tell us about your TED
yeah,
Talk. What was it on and how long
okay.
ago?
Yeah, so it was based off of the concepts in my first book. So to rewind a little bit, I am a 24-year-old corporate refugee,
Okay.
and I was basically going down the path of normalcy in my world, at least, where based off of where I went to high school and where I went to college and what I studied and my internship, very much by the book, and I was, doing what people expected me to do and doing what society expected me to do.
Mhm.
Um, but pretty quickly into my corporate job in 18, I quit and I said, this is not the impact I want to make on the world. I wasn't really making an impact on anybody.
Mhm.
So I left that job and I wrote my first book. And that first book was called Getting Comfy,
Okay.
Your Morning Guide to Daily Happiness.
Okay.
And what it was my morning routine.
Mhm.
And I wanted to share it with people because in the corporate crazy world that I was in, I was coming into work positive and optimistic, even though I knew it wasn't really the place for me.
Mhm.
Whereas a lot of my friends, colleagues, people who were even in the industry for years already, they were coming in stressed and burnt out and anxious. So I wrote this book to kind of say, here's my morning routine that helps me walk through the doors of work super happy and excited and energized and charged to be there, right? So
Mhm.
Comfy is an acronym for my morning routine, but for the last year and a half, I've been talking to startup companies, high schools, organizations about what comfy means. And it's
Okay.
really turned into a mental preparedness tool for anything that is outside of your comfort or comfy zone.
I
So
love
my
that.
TED talk leading right into that was called Getting Comfy with the Uncomfy. And
Mhm.
basically, it was split up into three sections. It was split up into first, you have to get comfy in your own skin. That is by
Mhm.
far the number one most important thing. It is becoming you from the inside out. So you have to be
Mhm.
able to take care of yourself first before anybody else. And
Mhm.
then the second step is once you've attained that level of self awareness,
Mhm.
then it's actually time for you to step outside that comfy zone because that's the only way
Mhm.
that you're going to grow, right? So it's
Mhm. Mhm.
deliberately doing experiences that are new and challenging. And then I think there is where most of the advice stops. And people say, yeah, you know what? I got to get outside of my comfort zone. But nobody
Mhm.
tells you exactly how to do that. So that's
Right.
where the third part of the talk was the COMFY acronym, which is my morning routine, my comfy routine, where I shared with people how exactly to get comfy with the uncomfy through what that routine means.
That is awesome. So,
Oh, thank you.
you got us uh, biting at our teeth here. What's the acronym stand for then?
Let's have a little fun with this, all right?
Okay.
So on three, we're gonna take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, okay?
Okay.
One, two, three. So that's C, right? That's the
Okay.
C of the acronym. That stands for calm.
I
So
love it.
any situation that's going to be stress or anxiety inducing, the first thing you want to do is you want to put your nerves at ease. You want to calm yourself
Mhm.
down, right? And to,
Mhm.
originally it was a morning routine. So when the alarm clock goes off and you're startled and you get up in a panic, right? The first thing you want to do is
Mhm.
just take a deep breath and just let things out.
Okay.
So what's cool about the comfy morning routine is that all five acronyms, all five letters, which we'll get to, they're buckets, right? They're not
Okay.
exact demands, they're rather recommendations. So for calm, you could either do deep breathing just like you and I did. You can do yoga, you can do meditation, you can wash the dishes, whatever you know for you works to put your mind at ease is what you're going to do
Okay.
for calm. So then, Lachelle, we have O. So O stands for, I'll let you take a guess. How about that?
Uh,
What do you think O stands for?
mm, organized.
Not a bad guess. You definitely have to be organized, but no. So O stands for
Openness.
openness.
Okay.
So what I mean by openness is there are basically two forms here. You could be open with another
Mhm.
person, where I pick up the phone, I say, "Morning, Lachelle. It's so great to be awake and alive, and I'm just so grateful for you. And I accomplished this week." Where you are just being open with another person and getting the thoughts out of your
Mhm.
head and out into the
Mhm.
world. Because if you bottle up the thoughts in your head, that's what leads to the stress and
Right.
anxiety, right? So, or you could be open with yourself. And you do that through a very common tool of journaling, right? Where you put in your journal your gratitudes and your accomplishments and maybe your fears, your strengths, your weaknesses, things like
Okay.
that, right? So that's O, that's
Mhm.
openness. M. M, I'll let you guess again. What's M?
Mindfulness, I would say.
That's a great one. The whole thing is mindfulness, but
Mhm.
you're absolutely on the right track. And this is a big M stands for movement.
Mm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be your workout for the day, but if you do 25 jacks or a couple sit-ups, a couple push-ups, right?
Mhm.
A walk, a run, weightlifting session, whatever it is, it literally turns on your brain and your body. It gets you clear, it gets you energized, charged for whatever it is that you're
I
going
love
to
that.
next. So that's M. F is actually my favorite one, so I'll just tell you. F stands for
Okay.
funny. And this is where it's not as, you don't often see this in the morning routines of people all over the
Mhm.
world, right? So funny is basically a way for us to wake up or go into the day, not being consumed by what we're often portrayed in the
Mhm.
media, right? The news, I think it gives us these dramatic and traumatic
Right.
events where that can only lead to pessimism throughout the rest of the
Absolutely.
day. But I say this, instead of turning on CNN, turn on your
Okay.
PNN, which is a positive
I love
news
that.
network, which consists of, funny memes and
Mhm.
videos and puppy videos and babies laughing and all that good
Mhm.
stuff, right? So you just go into something not taking it yourself too
Right.
seriously, right? Because that's how you're going to approach a new situation in the
Mhm.
best way. And then why, I'll ask you this, Lachelle, what is one thing, I actually asked this on LinkedIn today to my network, but if I gave you an impromptu assessment and I said you have 30 minutes to talk about one topic, go. What would you talk about?
Collaboration.
Oh, nice. I love that. So that's you. That is your
Right.
thing, right? And that's what Y stands for. It stands for
Mhm.
you. So you spend that last part of your comfy routine doing something that you want and love to do rather than something that
I
you
love
have
that.
to do. And that's the whole
Mhm.
basis. The doing this routine is because it's all about you, before something that is not about you
Now,
necessarily.
how do you handle, being
Mm.
having this unique mindset amongst people around you that may not have the same mindset?
Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing question. Because it literally comes up every single day. And it's almost like, I hate to live my life this way, but it's almost like I kind of have two separate personas.
Okay.
And, I live with my three best friends since I was 5 years old. And
Mhm.
they're party boys and they have their regular 9 to 5 jobs and they're living life, according to their own terms. And I participate in that on some Fridays and Saturdays as well. So
Mhm.
I definitely, make sure that I don't miss out on these things that I know that other people are doing and my closest friends are doing. So that's like one side of Jordan, right? But
Okay.
then to answer your question about, what I do on a day-to-day basis with all these, thoughts and being different than my people around me, it's pretty simple. I just surround myself with people who are like me, and age has nothing to do with it. I talk to people
Mhm.
who are in their 70s. I talk to people who are in their 40s. I talk to people who are, some people are younger than me who have this same mindset, and
Mhm.
that's when I really, really, start to shine, because seeing somebody like myself who is, up and coming in this world, that's when I
Mhm.
really make deep connections. But it's that phrase, you are the average of the five people around you, and I try to
Mhm.
make it the 500 people around me who really make me well-rounded and well-versed,
I
as
love
opposed to
that.
just zeroing in on one particular type of persona.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
awesome. So,
Oh,
I
thanks.
definitely agree with that concept because,
Yeah.
you have to, if people stretch you, when you
Yeah.
understand that there are things that you still can achieve.
Hmm.
So, talk to somebody who may be listening, they're at this point where they feel like nobody understands them in
Mm.
terms of their dreams and aspirations. So, what's the first way that they start making those connections and surrounding themselves with those people that
Yeah.
move them forward?
Yeah. So there has to be some sort of inspiration, right, that got
Mhm.
somebody going along this road. And for me, it was a particular individual, right? I don't even know who it was. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
if there's one person or one book or one one podcast
Mhm.
or one movie, right, who that
Mhm.
that has really, piqued your curiosity and sparked your interest in something, then dive deeper into it, right? And
Mhm.
follow the person on social media. We have the beauty of totally absorbing ourselves in somebody's lives these days for good.
Mhm.
We could have the social media conversation for good or for bad, but I believe there's so much good that can come from it.
Mhm.
Because if you do your research, if you engage properly, if you start to connect with other people who are commenting on their content and who are liking their posts and whose ideas you really resonate with, then boom, you get to create your own little community as well, just through following
Mhm.
somebody who's at the top of their top, right? And the most
Mhm.
important thing I would say here is to not play the comparison game and compare your
Mhm.
beginning to somebody else's middle or somebody else's
I love.
end. You are just on your own track, and it's about taking the micro steps in order to enjoy the journey of the person you want to become in achieving your goals, rather than just
Mhm.
being so focused on achieving a particular goal.
I love that. And can
Yeah.
we explain a little bit more about comparing the middle to
Mm,
somebody's beginning? Because I love that. I talk to people about that a lot.
I
But
love. Yeah,
from
that's
your
great.
perspective, because people don't realize that. So, what do
Yeah.
you mean by that term?
Yeah, I can I'll give you a great anecdote in my own journey. Um,
Mhm.
so this was about 6 months ago. I
Mhm.
was I was on, just doing my own thing, and I was kind of at a crossroads, honestly. I didn't really know where I wanted to go with this whole thing, and I was
So, you
disconnect.
said 6 months ago you were at this crossroads.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was looking at one of my mentors' pages, Peter Shankman.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he wrote a couple of books, and he's this great guy. He started a company called Help a Reporter Out, or Harrow.
Oh
And
yeah, I've heard of that.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So I've
Mhm.
been fortunate enough to connect with him through a conference we met, and we've met a couple times in New York City. But anyway, I was looking at all of his stuff, and basically he said something on, I think it was Facebook, but I had said it in the past. And there
Mhm.
I was looking at what he said, and he gets 100,000 views and 10,000 comments and 20,000 likes, and there was mine with like 15 comments and 20 likes,
Right.
200 views, right? So there I
Mhm.
was pretty. And
Mhm.
when I talked to Peter, he's a fun, but he's just kind of pointed to himself, and he goes like look at me. Like, do you see this guy? Do you see this body? Like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but then he just said, I have 40 years
Mhm.
on your journey right now. How the heck are any
Mhm.
he you
Mhm.
know, he cursed a little bit, but I won't do that. He said how the heck are you supposed to get the same kind of engagement that I am
Right.
when you're just starting out? You know, you don't have credibility, you don't have, you haven't, what have you done besides have good ideas to be where I am? You know, you haven't put in the hard work, the time, the effort, the consistency to
Mhm.
be where I am, right? So, that was a little bit of a kick in the butt to say
Right.
this is a long game and this takes patience and new ideas are wonderful. And sure, there are those unicorn ideas or videos that go viral on the internet, but I would never
Mhm.
advocate for that anymore. I would say, especially with what I do with Cloud9 and understanding people's most amazing moments in their lives, the Cloud9 moments come from when
Mhm.
behind the scenes you're putting in the work, putting in the work, putting in the work for so long, and then boom, you have that moment of true euphoria where you realize that it's impacting one person, that
Right.
it's impacting 10 people, and then ultimately that it's impacting,
I love that,
thousands and maybe even
because
millions.
that's one of the things I talk about is
Hmm.
heroes are made in the dark. And by that I mean, it is the behind the
Oh,
scenes.
yeah.
It's the not going to the party I'm sure you sometimes experience with your roommates and working
Yeah.
on that book or doing that
Yeah.
podcast when everybody doesn't
Uh-huh.
uh agree with your
Yep.
vision, but then later on it's like, wow, how did you get all this stuff done? How are you on this podcast or meeting these people later on? But I love the concept of
Exactly.
playing the long game. So, how do you,
Yeah.
with you being somewhat of a millennial, the mindset for them
Hmm.
is
Yeah, yeah.
easy. What's the word I want to say? Not really reinventing the wheel, but why take the long road if you
Yeah.
can get there in less time? So, how do you
Right.
kind of handle that with being able to help maybe some of your colleagues with the mindset of transitioning them to the long game, if that's even an issue?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I think people are definitely thinking more in the
Mhm.
here and now, which is good. You're supposed to stay present and live in the moment, but when it comes to things like this that we're talking about now with instant
Mhm.
gratification, that's not as healthy for a lifestyle or a mindset
Mhm.
or a
Mhm.
career, right? So I'll go back to these interviews that I've been doing that I just mentioned before. They're called Cloud9
Okay.
moments. And basically, a Cloud9 moment is when I ask somebody if they've ever experienced this freeing, electrifying rush of euphoria that their bodies were doing something that they'd never experienced before. It was the peak of happiness that they ever could have
Mhm.
experienced in their lives, right? And I ask millennials this question. I ask my 90-year-old grandma this question. I ask people around the
Mhm.
world this question. And never once have I gotten the answer about an Instagram like or a Facebook
Mm.
comment or a something, something related to instant gratification. That has never been a
Wow.
response that has
I
created
love
a
that.
Cloud9 moment. Ever,
Mhm.
ever, ever, ever. The responses that are Cloud9 moments are what I mentioned before, the delayed
Mm.
gratification, where you, just like you were saying, it's behind the scenes. It's you stay home
Mhm.
from that party, right? And then one day you get invited to speak on stage, or one day you get the promotion, or one day, you get the
Mhm.
girl or the guy after
Right.
putting in all the work, right? So it's really about that, and especially like in with what I'm doing now, I believe that it's so important to
Mhm.
have goals, right? And to think about, your 1 year, 5 year,
Mhm.
10-year plan. But I was listening yesterday to Oprah's
Mhm.
Super Soul Conversations, and Cheryl Strayed, who's the author of
Mhm.
the book Wild, she said something really profound that
Mhm.
hit me in the right way. And she said that she was
Mhm.
in a yoga class, and she looked at her yoga instructor, and basically said to herself, like, I can never be like that yoga instructor. So she went up to her afterward and said, you know, like, what's my problem? I'm not doing anything right, basically. And the yoga instructor looked at her and said, the purpose of yoga is not to do the right pose, but rather the purpose is to reach for it.
Mm.
So in everything that I think about, in the goals that I want to hit, in what I want to do in my life, it's not about doing the right pose and getting to the pose that I want. It's rather becoming the
Mhm.
person and putting in the effort
Mhm.
to reach for those
Mhm.
goals, right? So that's, you know, again,
I
all
love
about the
that.
delayed
And so,
gratification.
talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
how, that's like the implementation. So it's like we're going to these concerts,
Yeah.
conferences, live events, we're being with these people
Mm,
that are, telling us their philosophies and their formulas, but it's us with the
yeah.
implementation. So, about that journey with
Uh-huh.
becoming the person, what is something key to learn about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll give another little anecdote here. And I'm a personal trainer in the mornings from 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. I've got 5 or 6 clients who just come in, start the day on a
Mhm.
really high note, right? And in personal training, I'll
Mhm.
have a client, right?
Mhm.
Say her name is Becky, and Becky comes to me and she says, I have this wedding. My friend's wedding is in 3 months, and I need to
Mhm.
lose 15 pounds. And I say, no, you don't. And she probably looks at me like I have 15 heads, but that's what I say. I say, no, you don't. Because the goal is not to lose 15 pounds. Sure, that's like the overarching thing that
Mhm.
you want to happen. But in order to implement a strategy as to how you're going to lose 15 pounds, you can't just say that, right? It's like with
Right.
New Year's resolutions. You
Mhm.
can't just say that, but rather in becoming the person who does lose 15 pounds, you need to do your research and think about who loses 15 pounds, who's done
Right.
it in the past, right? Who can you call? Who can you contact? What articles can you read about somebody who lost 15
I love
pounds in
that.
3 months, right? And then it's about setting the micro goals instead of
Mhm.
setting the big goals. And it's also about setting it up in a way where it is not so much like results based, but rather
I love that.
process oriented. So, what I mean by that is what I'd say to Becky is you're not going to lose 15 pounds. And, like, maybe for, milestone purposes, we'll say every 5 weeks you'll lose
Mhm.
3 pounds or whatever. But what I'm actually going to say to Becky is what you're going to do is be the Becky who shows up to the gym 5 days a week for an
Mhm.
hour each, and then the results are
Right.
going to come. That's what it's about. It's about putting that process in. So if you want to write a
Mhm.
best-selling book, right? You don't just write a best-selling book, but rather it's you're going to do 10 days in a row of
I love
1,000
that.
words a day, and your writing is going to improve, and then boom, like that's how it's going to work. So that's where the
I love
implementation
that.
piece
That is
comes
really
in.
good. Now, so that
Yeah.
answers one of my other questions. So, how much time
Hmm.
did it take for you to come up with a strategy of surrounding yourself with the right people? Because you said, we get our inspiration. It might be one book, one podcast, these ideas resonate, but what does that look like? Because some
Yeah.
people, it's like, okay, this is the next thing, and they do it for a week or two, and
Right.
then they're done. So what is the
Mm.
realistic process that you went through? Did you incorporate it in your daily routine, or, something you did per week? Because
Oh
some
yeah.
people starting out and listening, they just don't get it. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. And that's, I kind of thought I would quit my corporate job and within a week I would be a New York Times bestseller. So I was in the same position,
That's
I was in the same position, but I learned very quickly that it doesn't work that way, and you need to develop a
mhm.
strong foundation. And I'll say this: do you know Malcolm Gladwell's Ten
I'm
Thousand
familiar
Hours?
with Malcolm Gladwell, but I haven't read the 10,000 Hours. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the concept basically is this: in order to be an expert in anything, you have to practice at least
I
10,000
love that.
hours of it. So I am not nearly that extreme. I actually had a conversation the other day with a lady who is trying to be a sports broadcaster, or she is a sports broadcaster, but she wants to be like the best. And she's documenting every single hour that she practices and
Wow.
does sports broadcasting, right? Which is just
Yeah.
it's amazing, fascinating. But I'm not
Right.
that intense with this. But basically use that as a
Yeah.
little bit of perspective where if you're doing like 5 days, what, it's like 100
Mhm.
hours only, and 1 week, that doesn't even get you that gets you like
Right.
0.1% of the way there. Um, so for me personally, how, it's been a year and a half since I quit my job, and I still work at creating my network every single day. You mentioned, is it
Mhm.
on my calendar? Every single day, I have something on my list that is about building a
I
relationship
love
with a new
that.
person. And whether that's on LinkedIn or whether that's on, maybe a special day where I want to send this beautifully crafted email to a New York Times bestseller in my, who I think I can
Mhm.
connect with. um, it's always different, and it's having these kinds of conversations. It's having in-person conversations, trying to meet with people in New
Mhm.
York City, right? um, because if I don't interact with somebody every single day, I'm never going to
Right.
know what
I
network I
love
want
that.
to build,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and then, I
Yeah.
love the point that you're
Yeah.
bringing up with daily building. You know, this is something that you have
Mm,
to create, because a lot of people think it's just going to fall in their,
yeah.
hey, he's already been on a
Yeah.
podcast or he knows these people. What is the reality of
Yeah.
maintaining? Because you can have one opportunity,
Yeah.
but where does it go from there?
Mm. These are amazing questions. So
Okay.
I love
Good.
them. I really do. So the maintenance piece
Mhm.
is huge, right? And it, again, think about that story I mentioned before about coming to the crossroads of, do I stay or do I
Mhm.
go, pretty
Mhm.
much. And because, in that story, because I had somebody in my network who I could go to for advice, that's when that person was able to push me down the right
Right.
path, right? And something that I want to mention about, connecting with somebody every single day is that you have to hope that not every single person is somebody you want to talk to for the
Mhm.
rest of your life, because you need to know the kinds of attributes and characteristics and people who you don't necessarily want
Right.
to be
Right.
around, right? So you need to learn from,
Mhm.
mistakes, and obviously there's a huge emphasis on failure and picking yourself back up and trying it
Mhm.
again, right? But the key here is that it's all about
Mhm.
intentionality and evaluation, right? You need to go into every single thing with intention and then assess it
I
after,
love that.
evaluate it after. And I don't mean that every single conversation you need to have an agenda,
Right.
you need to
Right.
hit boom, boom, boom. Some of the best conversations,
Mhm.
just like this, are the ones that
Mhm.
are free flowing and
Mhm.
we're just going
Mhm.
with it, right? But my intention afterward, so much more about who you allow you to
Mhm.
maintain this.
I love that. Mhm. So that is awesome.
Thank you.
Now, um, let's talk about this evaluation
Yeah.
because a lot of people, it's like, hey, I'm just doing these things, checking the box. I did my post for the day. I
Yeah.
did my emails and all this.
Uh-huh.
What that's another thing. It's about being able to look at the results
Yeah.
and knowing what kind of results to look for.
Yeah.
Because if it is a long journey, some of the results that you notice, what are the things that you're looking for? Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be like, okay, you're on Oprah, super
Yeah.
sold
Yeah.
next week. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly.
After the, yeah. So, what should they be looking for
Yes.
to know if they're doing the right thing?
So I'm gonna take this answer two ways, and I'll preface this with, I I'm gonna contradict myself in a way here. So
Okay.
just bear with me. So the first thing I
Okay.
will say is that once you're getting in the groove and you're rocking and rolling and you're analyzing. So for me first, I was actually analyzing other people, and I was seeing what
Mhm.
worked for them and what kind of words in their content was resonating with people, what was getting them a lot of engagement, what was, working in their
Mhm.
lives, right? And I was,
Mhm.
keeping good track of that. And for me, I was doing the same.
Mhm.
I would check the analytics, I would go deep into it and then change it up and shift things around for the next one and see how that one performed, right? So there
Mhm.
is definitely a lot of back work that goes into this,
Mhm.
whole thing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even in conversations, right? I would hang up the phone and I would say, okay, how good was that conversation in regard to creativity and originality and
Mhm.
authenticity, right? So
Mhm.
definitely a lot of deliberate planning goes into it and assessment. But where I'm going to contradict myself now is actually something that I said in a video that I made the other day, where
Mhm.
I think big picture at the end of the day. And when I wrote my first book, I said that my goal was to impact one stranger with this book. And fast forward to where we are now, and I've got thousands of connections on LinkedIn, hundreds of messages every day, thousands of comments
Mhm.
and things like that on
Mhm.
yesterday, and I'm a aren't that great. I just take a,
Mhm.
and I think this is
Mhm.
an important concept that I have in my life. I take a step back and I sort of, put myself up in the clouds and I look down at what's going on from a third party perspective. And I just say, I
Mhm.
kind of like chuckle and I go, man, like you're going to get upset because your post didn't perform well. Like, look
Right.
what you have done. Your goal was to impact one stranger and
Mhm.
here you are. Right. So it's almost like, you keep setting new
Right.
milestones for yourself. That's
Mhm.
how it can always be. One of my I
Mhm.
like Gary Vee a lot, and something that he said was that he
Mhm.
never stops. And there's a little bit of danger in that.
Right.
We don't have to talk about it because but anyway, he never stops. And when he hits one goal of New York Times bestseller, his next goal is, okay, now I'm going to do 5 New
Mhm.
York Times bestsellers. And when he hits one goal of my company's going to hit 5 million in revenue, it's okay, now when are we going to hit 5 billion in revenue?
Mhm.
When's that going to be, right? So the key, again, going back, bringing this conversation full circle, is that it's never really about the goal that you're setting. It's always about the
I
person that
love
you're
that.
becoming in the process, right? And I believe that the best way to understand the person who you're becoming in the process is by putting yourself up in the clouds, looking down at who you are, and just kind of thinking like, wow,
That is
I'm
awesome.
doing pretty
That is
well.
awesome. That's just good. Now,
Yeah.
so what, do you
Yeah.
have a coach or a mentor or somebody that you deal with on a regular basis, or this is pretty much something you just do on your own based on your own personal development?
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it's really all me. Like I keep mentioning to you, I have a couple of key people who I've
Mhm.
gone to in my life, who I've been able to
Mhm.
make relationships with. But on a daily basis, no. My mom I
Mhm.
talk to every day, my
Mhm.
dad, my brother,
Mhm.
friends. But that's more so not really about this stuff. It really comes from my desire to impact the world. Everything that I'm doing is about
I love
what it
that.
can do for other people. So
That
that's
is so
really why I'm
awesome.
so driven.
Yeah, well, I have really enjoyed this
Thank you.
conversation. I mean, I
Me
have tons
too.
of
These
notes over
questions were
here. But this
fantastic.
helps me because hey, I have a daughter who is going to be 27. I have a 24-year
Uh-huh.
old son and
Okay.
23. So they're all like
Uh-huh.
around your age
Uh-huh.
range, and it's just good to be able to
Yeah.
one realize that that mindset you're never too young for it. Um, and so it's just a
Yeah.
breath of fresh
Mhm.
air to know
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
hey, sometimes when I'm telling them things, I
Oh,
know I'm
thank
not
you.
crazy, okay, because other people do get it.
I-
But it's one of the things. Okay.
Okay. So the two best places to find me are LinkedIn. You could just reach out. It's Jordan Gross. And then on my website, journeytocloud9.com. That's all spelled out. journeytocloud9.com.
Sounds good. Well, we just
Perfect.
want to thank you so much for your time. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Me
Now,
too.
so what number podcast is this for you?
This is 73, I think.
Awesome. Awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And all right. So we wish you the best with your journey.
Oh,
And
thank you.
tell us again the name of your book so that if anybody wants to order that.
Yeah, so it's going to be called The Journey to Cloud Nine, and
Okay.
that'll be out in like the December, January timeframe. But if you want to stay up to date on it, at the website journeytocloud9.com, you can put your email in to the top bar, and you'll get all the updates and you receive Cloud9 moments and freebies and things like that.
That is so awesome. So this
Yeah.
journey is, you have any help with this? This is something you're doing all on your own, a personal
This book,
stretch? Uh-huh.
this book, I'm going through a traditional publisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I self-published the first book, but this one is with a boutique publishing firm.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And where are you located again?
I'm in New York City.
Okay. New York
Yeah.
City. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see
Yep.
Rachel Ray at all?
That's so wow. I can't believe you asked that because I saw her in a restaurant like less than a month ago.
Really? She is
Yeah.
so awesome. I was on her
Yeah.
show.
You were?
We got a chance to be on there for
Oh my goodness.
a national organization campaign with
That was
Peter
amazing.
Walsh.
How was that?
It was so fun because, didn't know how to cook, starting
Uh-huh.
out with having all these children. So me and my kids would sit around and
Yeah.
watch her 30-minute meals. And so it was just the best thing. And then we ended up being on her show. So it was a really great experience. We had fun. And if I
Thank
can
you.
serve you any way in the future, please let me know. Okay.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon.